So Jeannie, one of the things that we've recently gone through is a change in administration. There's been all kinds of bumpy roads when it comes to new policies and implementation. One of the things that we wrote a blog post on recently was the executive order that said that all the soldiers that got kicked out because of COVID refusal would be able to come back in and get back pay. And that's one of the services that we now offer is if you've been kicked out of the military, come to us and we'll help you negotiate your way back in. What do you think about that?
I love that. As someone who early retired from the civilian part of the Army because I didn't want to be vaccinated, I fully support it. I wished I had that opportunity, although I'm really enjoying doing this new type of work. But I think that's a great initiative, and I think that just makes me feel good that they're going to be allowed at least that opportunity. They might have great jobs now, they might be happy and realize they don't want to go back, but to have the recognition and realization they can if they want to, and that we can help them do that, must be a huge, huge relief for them.
Well, and part of it is the history, right? You have something that we hadn't had before, which is a pandemic, and then we didn't know exactly how to respond to it. And then the Army and other institutions come out and say, you have to get vaccinated. And then soldiers refuse and were kicked out. And then they change the policy that says, you don't have to be vaccinated. And so what do you do in that delta where they changed the policy and people were kicked out? What is the only fair thing to do? Allow them back in. But how do you figure out what the back pay is?
Oh, that's for finance, guy. I'm not that numbers person.
But you figure it out through lawyers, right? Because you're entitled to what your base pay is. You're entitled to BAH.
What about inconvenience? What about all the other things? They moved. Let alone that some of them came to see legal assistance originally because they were being told they get a bad conduct discharge. They told them that other than honorable discharge. Originally, they were even talking about court-martialing people. People were panicked over their benefits and whether that was going to affect their ability to be hired at places outside the Army when they had to get out. And of course, I was at a training installation, so a lot of the parents were calling worried about their kids who were in basic training right when all that policy switched. What happens? How do we do this? So I can see your point. You do need attorneys to actually help you figure out how it affected you. What was the cost to you? What do you need to be put back in the same place as before? If you missed a ton of promotions, you got promotion points. Are you behind everybody? What happens then? How do you get to your 20 when you're back? When you retire, how do you make sure you're not losing money because you're at a rank you wouldn't have been? You're one rank lower than if you'd stayed straight through. How does that work? I think that's going to be really interesting to see what is resolved now that they finally changed this policy.
Right, and those are all of the issues that you would need counsel on, right? Because it's one thing if finance says, okay, you come back in and they put you in at the same rank, same time and grade as you were. But if you hire counsel and you're able to articulate why you should come in at a promotion higher because you would have gotten that, or what about the OHA or the BAH that you lost, right? Is the goal of the executive order to make you whole, or is it just say, oh, we'll give you your job? There's been no policy from the services to say how to implement that. It's all right now today, a negotiation process with the judge advocates and the people who are making those decisions. I don't know. It's a brave new world out there with that executive order, and it's something that if you're a soldier that's been unfairly discharged, we need to talk about it.
And you're seeing a lot of people talking about it on a lot of the chat boards, I've noticed. A lot of officers in particular who were in command and left have now said, I've been asked to return. I'm trying to decide. And I think what would make their decision easier would be to talk to a lawyer and say, this is what you should get when you come back. This is what you should be asking for. Right now, you're in the position of negotiating. So you don't just want to say, oh, thank you. Thank you so much, because you're behind. You're behind where you should be. And you want to at least be even, if not a little above, because you went through all the mental stress and everything you had to go through when you were just put out. Well, and we all understand that had to happen. There were different phases people had to go through. People had to realize what was actually going on. That was a really horrible time period. I don't blame anybody for what happened. But when you finally catch up and go, okay, let's take a breath. Maybe we want these people back. How can we do that you want to have someone on your side who can call people and also tell you, this is what other people have done.
Right.
This is what's worked in other places. These are what my peers are telling me. This is what you need to do.
Look, and regardless of where you stand on vaccinations, whether you're a pro-vaxxer for COVID or you wanted freedom to choose not to, one thing is certain. The inception to market for vaccines was 8 years typically before COVID, and they compressed that into 18 months, 16 months? I don't remember. But you'd have to think, were there any corners that were cut in that process? Because if research and development took 8 years from inception to market, and you can do it in 16 months, why aren't we doing it in 16?
Yeah, exactly. And then you had people who had service members who'd already had COVID, and they were concerned about, if I get this vaccine, I've already had COVID, so it's already in my body. What happens then? There were a lot of questions that I thought were legitimate questions, and you and I were both in when anthrax was around.
I got my anthrax vaccine.
So people who were in when anthrax were, when that was part of things, are going, well, we've been through this before. What did we learn last time? I think I learned something not so good. I don't think I want to get this. So I think the fact that the Army is, all the services are catching up and are being allowed to catch up, because I think a lot of commanders had problems with it too. They were, but we obey orders. The people above us get to make these decisions. That's where they're paid the big bucks. That's how they got there. And once they make that decision, we comply or we're allowed to leave. And I think for people to now be allowed to come back is the fair thing to do.
Right. In all candor, I've gotten every vaccine that the Army told me I had to get. I've got the vaccine when it was available, just because I felt that it was something that I was doing for my community. I was willing to take that risk. But I certainly understand people who weren't willing, and that was a choice. I get that. So if you're wanting back in the military after you've been kicked out because of a COVID refusal, give us a call. We're the law office of Will M. Helixon. We are your warrior advocates. You defend the nation. We defend you.